or Good Karma Brands. Welcome in everybody to Taking Care of Business, today's show featuring Heiar Insurance. If you're watching on Daily Dodge TV or if you're listening on the radio, you're going to notice there's a few voices on here that aren't your typical voices for the show. We are welcoming in, of course, myself, as always, Justin the Ninja Wilski, but we've got Craig Caston, Craig with a K, and then we've got Carrie with us as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome into the show. Matt Heiar on some sort of a much-needed vacation, I'm sure, after the very busy end of the year.
Yes.
And he sent you guys in to talk a little bit about our typical conversation that we normally have, but also dive a little bit into something that's kind of a near and dear thing to a lot of us when it comes to people who are typically looking at retirement, Social Security, Medicare, which is the scams and cybersecurity things related to that to keep them safe. And so we're going to try and touch on a lot of that today. I'm going to start, of course, by giving out a little bit of information for everybody. If you're listening to the show or watching the show and you have a question that you want to try and get answered, we're more than happy to try and answer it for you. You can give us a call here at the show at 920-885-4446 or text us at our talk text line, which is 920-887-9595. And we've got Jeff Hall up in the studio wearing his green and gold. Love it, Jeff. And he is all ready to send those text down to us or give us that call information. So definitely feel free to check in. If you want to reach out to the Heiar Insurance team directly, you can do that as well. Is Jill standing by, I assume, over there at the office?
Yes, Jill is at the office.
Perfect.
Jill is actually retiring, though.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to just say hi to Jill as well, feel free to give them a call. 920-887-0580 is the number over there. So let's start by talking. Well, let's do a little history. Carrie, what's your history with Heiar Insurance?
Okay, I worked for Heiar Insurance for 7 years when I used to work at the hospital. And when I was getting ready to retire, Sandy called me up and she said, Carrie, you have to come work for me. Because she knew I knew all about insurances. I did all the auths for the hospital and stuff. So I knew about Medicare and, the supplements and insurances and how it all worked and stuff. And, and one of the things that a lot of people come in is they come in with their EOBs, explanation of benefits. A lot of people don't understand how those work and how do you read those, et cetera. So it was kind of a perfect fit for me. And so I only worked there 1 day a week, sometimes twice a week, depending. And I fill in when people need to go on vacation, and things like that. So, but I totally love working for Matt and Sandy. Matt and I kind of started at the same time, and we, learned a lot at the same time. And they are just so good at helping people. They're helping people, guiding them from, people come in a year in advance and say, I want to retire. Do you think it's possible? And Matt will help them with, okay, this is what you can do for insurance.
Right.
And this is what you can do. Let's see if you have enough money. So he'll help them with their investments and all the different steps of retirement.
Right.
And sometimes it's a year in advance, sometimes 6 months, and sometimes people, their job doesn't exist anymore and they're kind of forced to retire.
Right.
So those fast ones, the same thing, Matt's right there to help them and say, okay, this is what you can do. And stuff.
Right.
And so, and that can be over 65, where you get into the Medicare supplements and Advantage plans, or it can be under 65, where you can do the Affordable Care Act, which we can help people with too.
That period where we've talked about before with Matt, that having to bridge sometimes that gap from your group insurance at work to that Medicare insurance. You get that little bit of a window sometimes if you retire a little early. Great story with how you got over there. Obviously, Sandy knows what she's doing. She loves working local, loves being local. And Matt, same thing. And obviously, if she reached out to you, it must be because you know what's going on and you have some general information, which the Medicare insurance, the insurance world in general, is not an easy one to navigate. So for people out there who are saying, I don't understand these EOBs, the explanation of benefits. I don't understand when I get something in the mail that says this is not a bill. Well, what am I paying? Do I pay something? Am I going to get a bill? Things like that. Those are really hard questions to understand because we don't necessarily do it on a daily basis. Having somebody who works in the industry that knows the industry is definitely helpful. And having people local is super important, right?
Right. That's a real big one. They always say, oh, I signed up through the phone or da-da-da, those kind of things. Well, then when you call that place again, you're never getting the same person.
Right.
You're never, and sometimes you never get through to a person and stuff. So having someone local, the same thing, we're in Beaver Dam, but people from Horicon, Waupun, all areas around here
Right.
come to us and stuff, that you can call us up at any time, and we can answer questions for you. Oh, will my insurance cover this? And we may not be able to know exact, but we can guide you
Right.
to what you need.
Absolutely.
And then, or the same thing, I'm thinking about retiring. Will it work for me? So when you call us, the front office staff, the majority of the time we can answer those questions,
Right.
your regular questions. And if we can't, then we refer to Matt, and we have Matt call you back, and he, can answer pretty much everything. And if not, he'll find out right away
Right.
and stuff.
For some people, I mean, they might just be calling you for a little bit of pre-fact finding, right? Like, you guys
Yes.
have information on Medicare. You guys have information on plans. You have information on, and you guys can divvy that out to kind of wet the water a little bit and get them on the right path.
Yeah, a lot of people, when they're thinking about it. So let's say I retired at 62. Okay. So when I was 62, I was like, okay, what am I going to do for insurance?
Mm-hmm.
My lovely husband, Craig, is 5 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to insure him for a lot longer,
Right.
as far as before you hit Medicare age.
The joy
is-
of robbing the cradle, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Well, he's
My wife
gonna,
feels the same way, trust me.
next week, the 13th, he turns 65.
Well, happy
finally.
early birthday for that.
And stuff. I'm so super excited about that. But but the same thing. I didn't want to work till a such and such age in order to cover me and to cover him and stuff. So at 62, I went on the Affordable Care Act, and I went in with Matt and Sandy at the time, and they helped me, guide me through all of it. And then every year, well, this is what we do, and this is how we sign up and stuff. Well, the same thing when I turned 65. Well, then let's step to the next one. Let's
Right.
figure out, should I do Medicare supplements? Should I do a Medicare Advantage plan?
Right.
Which is better for me? And a lot of that I always base, lots of times when people call in, some of it I base on health.
Right.
If you have history of things, sometimes the supplement's better for you because they cover,
Right.
more and stuff. Well, it's not that they cover more, but with the Advantage plan, you're going to have co-pays.
Right.
Which an Advantage plan is wonderful for so many people.
Right.
My mother went on an Advantage plan when she was 65, and she's 89 now.
Right.
And it's only been the last 3 years that she's had to pay quite a few co-pays. Otherwise, she really did luck out. And
One of those where if you're not doctoring a lot, it's great.
yeah, and stuff. So, there's always a fit for everyone. And that's the things that Matt can help you with is, well, which is better for your scenario at this time?
Right.
And all of our health can change, but then we can guide you through that next step too. Like, well, maybe we should switch it to this.
Right. Well, and again, that's what's nice because dealing with local people like yourself with the hires, if you do have a need to switch from year to year, they're 1-year contracts for all these things generally. So for those supplements and those Advantage plans. So if you got to make that switch and you know what's coming up, you can sit down and evaluate. You can talk to somebody who wants to take the time to work with you, not somebody who's got a call quota where they got to take 20 calls in an hour.
Yeah. Correct.
That's kinda
Correct.
nice.
And Matt will meet with several people, a couple different times. Like, well, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? And what will the insurance cost me? Because everybody's like, well, I'm not sure if I can actually do this.
Right.
A lot of people are retiring at 55, 58, 60. It's not like, oh, I'm going to get old, really old to
Right.
retire nowadays. When can I collect my Social Security? What will be the best for me?
Right.
And he can guide you through all those steps, And then when you take the first step, then you go home and think about it and like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to do it at this age.
Right.
And then when that age comes, okay, let's get you signed up for. And then, the investments are the other big part of the puzzle. We all have put into our different, 401s and different things. Well, then when it comes to retirement age, then Matt can help you, guide you through that. Like, well, let's, put your investments in better scenarios and let's make it work for you as a retirement philosophy compared to working philosophy.
Right.
And there's a big difference on that too.
Well, I know one of the things he always says is, we don't want you to have to work in retirement unless you want to work in retirement. If you want to do something because you love it, great. But you shouldn't have to do it to make ends meet.
Right.
You've earned that retirement time. You should be able to use it. A few things that I know Matt and I always love to touch on and remind people about is if you're thinking about now or in the future, even if you're my age, good old 42, I've done this already, getting your login stuff set up with the U.S. government early is better than late. That seems to be the big bottleneck right now for everything. So the login.gov or the SSA.gov, they use the login.gov or the ID.me option. A good idea to get started on right away and get that into the system. If you need help, of course, it's another thing you can reach out to the Heiar team for, and they can help you get all set up with that. If you're my age, it's great because you can go in and look at the numbers and you can remember how little money you made as a teenager, and kind of get an idea of at this point going forward where you're looking as far as retirement is concerned. But for people who are maybe a year or two out and they do like a lot of people do, and they take those Social Security statements and they just throw them in the trash because they mean nothing until they're retired, right? It gives you a chance to kind of pre-plan a little bit before you walk in. And if you open that up, you get logged in, and you see a number that you're definitely not comfortable with, it's probably a phone call you need to make.
Right.
And that phone call, of course, would be to the Heiar Insurance Team, 920-887-0580. I want to make sure we put time in to discuss this other topic here a little bit, because there are always times of the year, right around high retirement times, we'll see it, right around the times where people are starting to have to enroll in the Advantage plans, Medicare plans, all that stuff. We see a lot of mailers, we see a lot of advertisement, we see a lot of cold calls, we see a lot of just information, a deluge of information falling on people who fall into these categories. And at the same time, ne'er-do-wells like to slip in their information and maybe snag a little bit of stuff. And that's part of the reason why we got you on, Craig, because you've got a lot of technology background. You and I like to geek out and dork out about a lot of things. But one of the reasons we have you on today is to talk about some of the aspects of ways that people can kind of stay safe, cybersecurity-wise and otherwise, especially the people who maybe technology was not the first thing they learned, and it came into their lives much later in life.
Yep, I was lucky. I was fortunate to hit the sweet spot that it just had started. So I've been on the ground doing this for 40 plus years. So, so I try to help, but I try to help my customers. The biggest, one of the problems that we have with this is, our older people were taught, to trust people. That your word is your bond. A handshake is $1 million deal can be done with a handshake.
Absolutely.
And perfect. And you shook hands. Therefore, it's legal and binding, and everything's fine. Well, that's not how it works today. And I get a bang out of watching, these scam things on. They talk about the scammers. And if you ever seen the guy who does the glitter bomb thing, that's hilarious. And, for those that don't know, he figures out who the scammers are, or porch pirates, people who steal stuff off your porch, creates a glitter bomb, because his new one is to get scammers actually sent to their places, and then when they open the package, the glitter explodes everywhere and fills her. So it's pretty obvious. And he has a camera, could pick it a camera. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we're taught to be trusting, and I know that my parents were that way, and your mom was that way, and so we're in that very age where we're kind of sort of trusting, but not quite. Not like the younger generation where they're like, I couldn't trust anything, right? Right. So you always have to be careful when you do those things, because I'd written a couple of quick notes here that some things that I'm worried about is the when you get a call like that. First of all, I always tell people, if it's from a major corporation like Google, or I say if Google's never going to call you, Amazon's never going to call you, they're never going to call you because you're just one of 100 million people. They don't have time to call one person to say, hey, you might have a problem with your computer. We should check into this. It's like, especially if it comes with a foreign accent, more than likely it's not necessarily true, because I do some work with tech support people who are from foreign countries, and they're great. But if it starts out with that way, then you're like, okay, well, that's not true. and so you get all these people. Well, they'll give you this spiel, and they'll tell you, hey, there's a sense of urgency. You got to do this right away. I mean, you tell a great story. You should probably tell that, a great story about the woman with the 60-second timer. And I've got that too, where the pops up and it says the screen pops up and it says, oh my gosh, your computer's gonna be infected and everything's gonna be deleted if you don't send us $100 million, $1,000 right now. And that's it's a sense of urgency always says, wait, if this is urgent, why would Google do that? Another thing that they do is I've run into this quite a few times, actually, believe it or not, where people have called me and said, well, they want me to send a gift card, like an Amazon gift card, or somebody I know drove all the way to Oshkosh to get Lowe's gift cards because that's what the people that were fixing their computer wanted.
Right.
They didn't want credit cards; they wanted Lowe's gift cards because they're not traceable. And I finally convinced her, no, that's not right. Don't do that. Stop. Take a break, because you always figure if it's something like Microsoft, they can buy Lowe's. They could buy all the hardware stores in the country.
Right.
So why would they want you to give them gift cards? They just buy the whole company. I mean,
exactly.
They're worth trillions of dollars. So why would you do that, right? That's those are unusual payments. Well, you can pay me by crypto, or you can pay me by the minute they start adding that, just hang up. I get people that say, well, I was online with them for 35 minutes. I'm like, God, if after 30 seconds, if they start asking me money or asking me for something, and one of these ticks one of these red flags, I'm like, I'm out. I hang up. You always try to be very polite and very understanding, but that's not how it works today. They're not being polite. They don't care about you. They just want, and the other one that always comes is when they say, this is a great deal. We can give you this thing if you only give us if you can only give us like $100, and then we'll give you 10,000 back. And I'm like, wait, if you have my $10,000, why don't you keep the 100 and just give me the $9,990?
Right.
I do that instead, right? The old Nigerian prince thing, right? From a long time. I remember that from a long time ago. They still make references to that, but I'm sure the young people don't remember that much anymore. It's if it's too good to be true, and I fell for one of these one time, and I'm very cautious, and I'm obviously very careful, but because with AI and everything, some stuff are becoming so sophisticated that I got this there's this thing on Facebook, because that's the worst, is this like really cool clock, and it was digital, and you could build it yourself, and it was super. And I thought, this is a great present for my friend. So for Christmas, I'll buy it for him. So I did the research. The company exists. I went to their website. The website was beautiful. It had everything. It did that stuff, and I ordered it. And it didn't come, and finally it came, and all I got was a wallet. And what they were doing was they were using this as a scam. The website was still active,
right?
But they sell it as a scam, as you give them money, and then they give you a wallet, because they don't have to technically give you the product they said they were going to give you. I'm not sure how that's legal, but that's the way they explained it. The credit card company explained it to me. They don't technically have to give you, as long as they gave you something for your money. So They gave me this wallet. It cost like 4 cents or 5 cents, a piece of junk. But fortunately, my credit card was able to reverse the charges and get my money back. But even as cautious as I am, and I get hundreds of scams every day to looking at those people and people calling me. But I'm like, no. It looked so real. It was like I did all the research, and it still passed every test that I would use, a litmus test, to say, is it this? Is it this? No, everything's real. It must be something good. And it turned out just to be a scam. Damn.
Yeah, that'll happen. I want to touch on a couple things you said there. One, the sense of urgency thing. That's a big key indicator.
Yep.
I try and stress this on my mom. She is at that lovely point now where I think she's now 61, and her and technology have never shook hands ever. So I'm probably always over there fixing something with her Facebook, her phone, her computer, constantly. There are people listening and watching who know exactly what I'm talking about. Craig, I'm sure you've done this for many a family.
Yep.
And the number of times I've had to say, like, there is never anything so critical that sense of urgency is necessarily required. If somebody's not bleeding out in front of you, that a 911 call is required. Or if there aren't bombs literally dropping that you can see, it's probably not so urgent that you need to be doing anything that quick, that you can take a moment to just a quick common sense test.
Yep.
Just put it in your own head and say, does this make sense? Does this feel right? Oftentimes, if it doesn't pass the smell test, there's a reason.
Yep. Yep, my father had one of those. My father's passed away, but from the time he had his computer, which he was really good at it, he's actually better than Kerry was at it. We always joke about that. He was actually good. He ordered his own stuff and he did all stuff. And he called me one day and said, "Something's wrong with my computer." I said, "What's wrong with it?" Well, there was this guy that called me and said he was from Microsoft, and I'm like, okay, who's the only person who's ever built your computers or given you a computer? You. Who's the only person that ever fixes it when you have troubles? You. Then why would you fall? Well, he was really convincing, and that's part of the scam, is to be convincing, to make you, lull you, and maybe talk about something else first and say, "Oh, by the way, you have to send me, $1,000 worth of gift cards." And the one running around in Los Angeles now is they get people to, the scammers are using intermediaries. They're paying them like $100 a drop. So what they're doing is asking people to put cash, and that's definitely a no-no. Put cash in a FedEx box and then FedEx it to this random address, which changes every time. And then someone gets there and picks it up, and then they get like $100 for picking up the package, and then they pass it to the intermediary, who gets like 10%, and then they pass it to the scammer in India or wherever it happens to be. It doesn't have to be necessarily be India, but Russia or anything like that. And so scammers are. It's becoming a business. It's become a pyramid scheme now, where before it was just a guy in a room, and if he got, working for a big company, and if he got money, if he didn't, move on to someone else. But there's it's actually like a pyramid thing where people are getting paid to do this, to scam other people, and they're okay with it.
Right.
I'm like, oh, what?
Well, and the big thing, my mom too, I would always tell her, especially after she turned a certain age and didn't think as well as she used to on stuff. Don't ever give any information. Don't give your social security number. People don't call you up and ask you for those things.
Right.
Those are things that you just don't give over the phone. Don't give them your address, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And so she finally I told her, well, if they really need that, just tell them to call your daughter, does everything for you, and give them my number. And she would do that. Well, I never got any calls,
Of course.
and stuff. So, but it was one way of preventing her from doing those things and stuff, and especially as you get older, a lot of people, when they get older, have signs of dementia and other things that, they can easily be scammed and stuff when it comes to all that, And then I was just thinking about that when Craig turning 65. Matt and I teased, we're joking about it in the terms of, hey, Carrie, 6 months before Craig turns 65, take a box and collect all the mail he's going to get.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Well, I thought, I'll do this, because I thought, well, we've got a prime time to do this, So I started. I filled a shoebox within a month and a half.
I'm not at all surprised.
With different companies sending, sign up with us, or, all different types, and stuff. After 3 months, I was like, I'm done with this little game. I'm not keeping all this stuff. Yeah. But it is very overwhelming when you turn 65 and you're taking that next step of going on Medicare and a supplement or an Advantage plan. What is your decision? And that's where coming to someone like Heiar's and, the hometown philosophy, I keep going with that, small business philosophy, that they can help you with all that. They can guide you. They can say, this is what's going to be the best for you. Because, like with him, there's so many scams out there. There's just, and it's not that insurance companies will be scams, but it's just that you sign up with somebody because, this looked really, really good. Well, then you call that number again. You're not getting anybody that's going to help you.
Right.
That doesn't know you. That's because Matt takes the time to know.
Right.
You. In fact, I was telling her when she said, well, it's time to sign up for all your stuff when you turn 65. And I'm like, okay, you can do it for me. She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, Matt knows what I need more. Because Matt, we know each other.
Right.
Carrie knows me. I said, why do I have to be there? She goes, I don't know. I was like,
because
I'm one of those people that doesn't. I don't understand. I understand insurance from a gross standpoint,
right?
But I don't understand like how EOBs work. I mean, I understand, but not to the level like these guys do. So to me, it's just meaningless. So why would I want to go if I want someone who actually knows me personally,
Right.
knows my goals, knows my feature, and not necessarily my wife. Just if she wasn't there, I would have Matt do the same thing or Sandy do the same thing, where they would, because they know me and they would know what my goals are. They know where I want to be in the future. They would say, this is what you need to do. And I'd be like, or they'd say, here's 2 options. You pick the best one. And then I'd say, Carrie, what do I want?
Yes.
Sometimes it's easier just to give options.
Yeah.
And that kind of ties something together, kind of on both sides, the cybersecurity thing and then the retirement thing. There are plans out there when it comes to Social Security that are zero cost. And me and Matt always talk about it's kind of a race to who gets to be the last one to enter information in. Because the last zero cost plan you say yes to, so somebody calls and you say yes, you give them the information, something you're signed up for, that's the one you've now got for that
Yes.
year contract. So you can really, screw yourself over a little bit if you're not paying attention and you don't know what you're doing. So it is important to kind of think about that. But a lot of that starts because people, they answer the phone and they start talking. And I understand nothing against anybody who's older than me by a few years, but we like to converse. We like to have
Right.
conversations. We like to talk to people. You get a friendly voice on the phone, and they're saying things to you that seem, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds good. Next thing you know, you've agreed to something you didn't expect to agree to. One of the pieces of advice I give that's cybersecurity related, but works very well for that as well, is now we've all got cell phones. We see the number that pops up. If it says unknown or it's a number you don't know, it's not in your contacts, you don't have to answer it.
Right.
Back in our day, we had the corded phones growing up and everything, and you didn't know who was calling. So you pick up the phone and say hello to everybody.
Yep.
And even if it was the wrong number, you try to help them out. What number are you trying to get? But nowadays, if it's not a number you don't know, let it go to voicemail.
Yeah.
If it's important, I always hear the argument of, well, what if it's my doctor's office calling me?
Leave a message.
They'll leave a message. Yeah, you can always check the message. You're fine. Whereas most scammers are not going to take the time to leave a message. They don't want you to call them back. They want you in that moment. They want that sense of urgency to kick in. Same thing with, if you end up on a call list for people who are trying to get you to sign up for plans that are zero cost, so they can get that commission off of you for getting you signed up. If you don't answer, they're not going to take the time to leave a voicemail in most cases. They're just going to roll on to the next call that's automatically popping up on their list. Or, technology-wise, they might be using an auto dialer. They're calling 10 people at once. And the first person to pick up is the one they're talking to. And then you're not going to get a message. It's just going to hang up on you, and it's going to go to the next 10 people.
Yep. but
So
you get that when you pick up the phone and if you do answer for a number you don't know,
Right.
which I rarely do, but if you do that, then you say, you say hello, and you hear the click, and it's like because the auto dialer already somebody else had hung up, and then. The 2 things that come into mind with that is, number one is if you answer it, now you're automatically on a list. You're automatically on a list of people who will answer, not necessarily talk to, but at least your answer. So now your calls will start doubling. And then if you start talking to them, then that's a different list that says, well, these are people we can engage with. They didn't buy what we wanted, but the next guy might be able to convince them. And the other thing that I found interesting was my son-in-law was always big on, well, I like to play with them. I like to talk to them for half an hour and put them on hold and do all this stuff just to be mean to or whatever. And I said, you realize that there's AI tracking your voice, and now they've recorded your voice saying almost everything, every word in the English language in some version or another. And now they can deep fake you because they can do anyway, but it's a lot easier if you've said 400 words, then they can use that. I said, you're just asking for it. And he goes, and he's the computer guy, and he goes, well, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, yeah, sorry. I'm always worried. I'm so worried about cybersecurity all the time that I'm like, yeah.
Well, yeah, and Craig always tells me, well, I'll use my mom, for example. She was on the Lifeline, and there's several different 800 numbers. It's not always the same. So I was kind of forced to answer all of them for a while and stuff. Well, when you would get a scammer one, he always said, make sure you don't say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing
'cause they'll
affirmative.
say, right. So if they say, is this Carrie, and you say yes, they now have you saying yes as a recorded thing.
which is all they need to be like,
Yeah.
yeah, she said she wanted to buy $1 million
Yeah,
condo. She said
right.
yes.
And stuff. So I catch myself quite often, and then if there's some reason I have to say yes, I disguise my voice really weird. Like, okay. I mean, I don't, it's hard because, you're not thinking in the moment like,
Right.
oh, this isn't the right thing to do. But like I said, we get calls at Heiar's probably like I said, I only work there 1 day a week and stuff, but at least a couple times a month we get calls from different people like, well, is this real? or, and, I'll say, no, this Medicare's not going to call you on that. Or like,
Right.
Social Security, if you have a signed appointment,
Right.
they will call you.
But that's
they
kind of
don't
thing. You've
just
set up an appointment with them, and they're calling you for that appointment.
for that
Right.
appointment. But
You're
they're just
expecting
not
that.
going to randomly call you and say, hey, how's life going,
Right.
and stuff. So those are all things that, it's hard because you want to like trust people and stuff. So we always say, call us.
Mm-hmm.
Call us. We can, if the front office staff can't answer the questions, then we refer to Matt, and he can usually answer the question and get back to you right away
There you
and
go.
stuff.
That makes sense. That number again, if you want to call the Heiar Insurance Office, 920-887-0580, located just over here at the Heritage Mall. I'd say you can't miss them, but you kind of can. The door's off to the side a little bit there
Yeah.
by what used to be the Joanne Fabrics. And formerly the Spirit Halloween. But yeah, you can definitely swing on there. I believe the hours are still the same, 9 to noon, and then 1 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Correct.
Although
correct.
Matt has said in the past, and I'm sure he'll stand by this now, there are times where if they need to work around that a little bit for people, we know,
Yes.
especially if you're still working but you're planning on retirement and you don't have a window that works within that, they
Yeah.
usually can work around that and help you out a little bit. I like the fact that we've mentioned kind of the amount of mail-in stuff that people get, and a lot of the things, because nowadays it is very easy to get overwhelmed, especially when you're reaching certain milestones, be it getting about the point where you can get Medicare, or even getting into retirement age. You can see a lot of those things start to kick up, and as we talked about kind of at the beginning of the show, that does put you into a very key demographic. People kind of forget that their information is out there.
Yep.
If you've ever signed up for anything from a library card to your favorite grocery stores, membership cards, loyalty cards, filled out a survey someplace, whatever, that information is often immediately categorized and sold, and that builds a database on people. We've even heard in the news lately where they've talked about how the federal government has looked into people who maybe are protesting at certain events or attended certain events or maybe expected of crimes. They can look into everything from where your phone's been, see what you put on social media, and they have little profiles they can build very quickly about everybody.
Yeah.
And thanks to computers, those profiles are super quick and super easy to be created. And that does make you a target for things like targeted media, targeted ads, targeted information. So protecting your information is really super important.
Correct.
I
It
know
is.
Social Security, when that was first brought out, that was something I think everybody was told. My grandfather used to say this all the time. They said, you'll never be tracked by your Social Security number. It'll never be a personally identified number.
Yeah.
Now it's how we track everything.
And it used to be when you sign up for stuff, they'd make you give them their full number. They say, give me your full Social Security number. I'm like, now they just ask for the last four, but
Right.
It's still, I still have to go through it in my head to go to go, yeah, that's right.
Same thing.
Yeah.
But that's one of those pieces of information it's crucial to hold on to. Your Medicare number.
Correct.
That's a super important one. You shouldn't be giving that out to anybody unless you're standing in a doctor's office and you're talking to the doctor or the nurse and at the counter. You do have to be really, really careful with some of these pieces of information.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a catch-22 too, because when we worked at the hospital, they would tell people, well, you shouldn't carry your cards with you because, for safety wise.
Right.
But yet, when we worked at the hospital, we need your cards. So we would say, no, you have to bring your cards,
Right.
and stuff. So the same thing. You are in Madison and you fall and hurt your leg or whatever, and you end up someplace, and you're now in an emergency room someplace, and you don't have any of your cards
Right.
because they're home in a safe place. Well,
Yeah.
those cards, let's say for me, I'm on Medicare and Physicians Mutual and stuff. Well, they need those numbers, and stuff. So to be able to hand them to them and say, oh, here's because otherwise it's a billing nightmare,
Right.
that, they're only going to send it to one because they don't have the secondary. And then you're mad because you're getting billed all this stuff. So which is the right way? I don't know. But like I said, I always carry my cards with me so that, I can show them right away.
Right.
At a doctor's appointment, because I really don't want to mess with billing.
Yeah, that's a whole other complicated can of
Yes,
worms right
yeah.
there.
And
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah,
So,
one of the things that we've talked about phone, and we've talked about talked about emails and talked about that. But one thing we did talk about was the all the commercials on TV.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes. I always tell the people, the same thing. You get those commercials, and a lot of them are valid commercials on insurance companies, but the same thing. You don't have that hometown agent that's going to help you with things. You're going to call that number. You're going to probably sign up because, like you said, someone's going to talk very nicely to you, encourage you to do these things, and then you're never going to get that same person again.
Right.
And stuff where the advantage of, like Heiar Insurance is you come in, you get signed up and everything, and, a month later you're like, well, I'm not sure how this works. You can call us up and we can answer those questions for you. And you're only going to get either Matt or one of us in the front office.
Somebody there on the team.
There's only a couple of us. So you're going to get to know all of our names and et cetera. Or a lot of people just stop in. Well, I just got a quick question. Well, we're fine with that.
Yeah.
We can answer the question and stuff. If Matt's not with a client, or we'll say, oh, Matt's going to be done with a client at a certain time. Can you stop back then? Or he will call you right away.
Right.
And stuff. So that is totally the advantage of it. And especially when you start this journey. When you start the journey of being on over 65 and on Medicare and supplements and all of that, it's something to get used to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because then you need a drug plan also. And like, why? People go, why do I need a drug plan? Well, because the government's says you have to have one.
Right.
Well, I don't take any drugs. Well, you still have to have one.
Right. You may not now, but you might in the future. You
And
never know.
stuff. And so, so those are all things we can guide you through, and especially when you were talking about the annual thing. If you're on like a Medicare supplement, it's not an annual. It's just as long as you keep paying, it's
Right.
just going to keep going and stuff. And the same with an Advantage plan and stuff. There's open enrollment times
Right.
that you can, and stuff like that. But the same thing, when you're 65 and you sign up for this, you get the government gives you a one-time pass. They have to accept you as you are.
Right.
With any health history you have, but as you go along, if you decide, let's, well, then they're going to look at your health.
Right.
That one-time pass is a wonderful thing.
It definitely is. And when you mentioned the ads that are out there, one of the ads that I always love, the topics when it comes to ads I always love talking with Matt about is I love the life insurance ads. Those ones are always my favorite because they always give you the most ideal. Like, you can get $2 million in coverage for 30 cents a day, less than a cup of coffee a week, no health questions asked. Everything sounds amazing. And then there's always the fine print and the quick talking at the end.
Yes.
And if you would ever pause and you put on your bifocals and grab a set of binoculars and really get close to the TV, you might see that it says, less than 1% of individuals qualify for top tier, whatever. And you realize, well, if you're not Superman, chances are you're not getting that good of a deal.
Yes.
But you don't know that, so you call. And once you call, and once they get information from you, and once they start walking you down that road, you feel you've invested time. And that invested time sometimes makes us make stupid decisions. And we
Right.
buy into things we
Correct.
probably shouldn't.
With the heart rather than with the head.
Exactly. And if you're going to invest time and you want to talk to people, it's nice to invest time and talk to people that are local. You might run into them at the grocery store. You might run into them at a local sporting event or, out at the bar or at a, chamber of commerce event or something. And that person is going to have no problem looking you in the eye and having a conversation with you because they were straightforward with you, straight shooter, very much like the classic handshake was a deal kind of time frame. We always talk about shopping local, working local, doing things local, and that's definitely a great way with a local team like the team over there at Heiar Insurance. I'm going to throw out the number again because I want to make sure people have it. Write it down. 920-887-0580 is the number. Give them a call. Obviously, we just came out of a very busy time of year.
Yes. It is
with,
pretty wild that time of year.
With open enrollment and stuff. And even coming through that now, there's a lot of stuff happening. I think the I think Congress just passed something that's going to the Senate to possibly reinstate some of the Affordable Care Act credits.
Yes, the credits.
So there could even be more changes that are coming.
Yep.
I mean, it's a constantly evolving and changing world. You've seen a lot in your years doing
Yes,
this.
yes.
How do you keep up with it all?
Well, it is hard to keep up with it. And like, that's why I totally respect Matt in so many terms because, you know, I'll say, Matt, what's that number again? What are they charging for this? And what's the tax credit? And how much do you make, you know, for that? He knows all the answers, you know, and stuff because he keeps up with all of it and
Right.
stuff. But the same thing, you know, on the Affordable Care Act, that's a very good one. If you make over a certain dollar amount or under a certain dollar amount, you're going to get that tax credit. But
Right.
right now, the government, if you make over, they've taken that tax credit away.
And I think Matt was saying it's kind of like a hard cliff. Like you had a certain, 1 penny over and suddenly
Yes,
gone.
you're gone, and you no longer get that tax credit, which makes it that your monthly premium is a lot higher.
Right.
And a lot of people are like, "Oh, I was planning on retiring at, 61, and now it's going to cost me this much for insurance." And usually, Affordable Care Act, depending upon what you decide you want to pay,
Right.
it's going to be a high deductible and out of pocket,
Right.
et cetera. I mean, you can pay more and get a lower deductible and out of pocket.
Right.
But those are all steps that Matt can help you through. Like, okay, well, maybe this is a better decision for you, or maybe it's better to do this and stuff to sort of call and come in and have that talk. And everybody is always like to me when they come out, well, what's this going to cost me? And I'm like, well, Matt is helping you to make these decisions.
Right.
So this is all part of what we do for you. So it's not going to cost you anything to just come in and talk to us.
Right.
Because there's so many different steps to those different decisions, you know. Well, oh, geez, I thought I could maybe retire. Well, maybe I have to work for another year yet.
Right.
You know, and I'm going to put away some more money so that I can afford this, Affordable Care Act thing.
Right.
And maybe the government will come around and make it better for us. You never know.
We can hope that they come
You
around
know,
on a lot
and
of
stuff.
things, I think. But yeah.
Well, like I said, when I retired at 62, Craig and I both went on the Affordable Care Act, and it worked great for us. But now we're talking 7 years ago. That was, the difference between then and now is a big difference in
Night and
what's
day,
happened.
right.
Yeah, and stuff. But it was a great fit for what we needed. I did not want to work forever,
Right.
and stuff. And so working for Heiars, I never call that work. That's just fun. I love helping people. I love when they call up and say, well, what about this? And does my insurance cover this? Or I'm thinking of retiring. And sometimes I get going on the phone with them and Matt will come out and he goes, are you still on the phone with them? And I'm like, yeah, I'm really guiding them. But they come in and they'll thank us, like,
Right.
oh, the same thing, that first meeting they have with Matt. Well, they're feeling so much better. Oh, they figured out. Some people have never, when you're talking about the Social Security website,
Right.
some people have never gone on there. Not in
Right.
their 40s, 50s, 60s. They have no idea what they're going to get for Social Security. Well, those are all things Matt helps them with. Like, oh, okay, well, let's see what you're going to get. Let's see if this is possible. So you're going to get this for Social Security. You have this kind of investment. You can take out this much per month or so.
Right.
And this is what you're going to get taxed on it. And then, and this is what you're going to pay for insurance. Well, now you can decide, can I retire at 61, 62?
Right. Does this fit the lifestyle I want to have?
Yeah, because he's helped you with all those steps, and that's a biggie. I mean, I did it probably 6 months before I was thinking of retiring, and mine was a no-brainer because I could get the insurance, I can get my Social Security, I can go and take from some of my investments,
Right.
and make $200 more than working.
I mean, that seems like a
Bonus,
no-brainer. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then when Sandy called me to come to work for her, I'm like, well, this is bonus money now,
There you go.
and stuff. So, but you know what I mean? To be able to have that meeting to say, okay, this is how it's all going to work, can make a big difference when you're thinking of doing things.
And I've heard Matt say before that as he's talked to people about their options, and then they'll lay out their options like for their insurance or stuff, and he'll tell them, well, we don't want to help you because what you have is better than what we can offer, rather than saying like a giant, like a TV commercial would say, well, we'll cover you. It's going to cost you more, but we're better anyway.
Right.
He's going to say, look, because you told me the story the other day about somebody who had Cobra that.
Oh, yes.
Cobra was super expensive, but it was better than the Affordable Care Act.
In some
Right.
cases, yeah. In some cases, especially if you have health issues, Cobra, it's worth it to stay on Cobra. But then you can only stay on Cobra for so long. But
Right.
then when you get off of Cobra, then we switch over to the Affordable Care Act. Matt is very honest with them about
Right.
that. He
I
could
think
sign you
Cobra's
up for
18 months? Year and a half, I think.
I think it's something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know. It
If
changes.
I'm wrong, Matt, you can yell at me next week.
Yeah, it changes all the time when it comes to that. But he's not going to be like, oh, well, I need him as a customer, so I'm going to get this.
Right.
He's going to be honest and say, it's much better for you to just stay on this.
Right.
And then when you're off of that, come see me and I'll help you for the next step of the way.
Building that
There you go.
relationship.
Yeah, and stuff. So that's a biggie. Like I said, working for Matt, I'm kind of like, wow, people walk out and they're like, oh, wow, this has really helped. And that is really neat to see.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
The people like, oh, I can go on, Medicare supplement and it's going to cover everything. That was my biggie, like, oh my gosh.
It is nice when that weight can come off your shoulders, and it's one less thing you got to worry about, and you know that if things don't come like you thought they were going to, you can always just call up Matt and be like, you told me, and Matt will take that.
Yeah.
He knows he's his own biggest critic. We are unfortunately hitting the end of the show, so we do got to get ready to wind up here. But any last words you want to share with people before we give all the information out again and send you guys on your way for the day?
Well, I wanted to had a couple quick some of the current more current scams that are going around. One is if you're one of those people that have a landline yet because it's bundled with your package or whatever, whoever you got it with. There's been a lot of problems lately with people being their phones being hacked. And because nobody uses landlines anymore, right? But you just have it because it's a bundle. We had one for years, nobody ever called it scammers. And what they're doing is they're somehow able to redirect your phone number to another phone number. So I had a customer who had not had a phone call for like a month, and I'm like, well, doesn't people call you? So I called the number and it was just dead air. And I'm like, so I worked with with a company, and they said, well, it was redirected like 8 months ago. I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, that's a new thing now where they redirect it to so when you do the call, to verify,
Right.
we're calling you to verify you are who you are. They're calling some other random number in Bogota, Colombia, and then they say,
Right.
yeah, hi, yeah, this is me, definitely for sure. Okay, here's your credit card information. And then the other one I want to remind people is that your information is a commodity. I mean, when you sign up for things, that gets bought and sold many times over. And the newest scam is let's say that you have like to do more mature things, let's say gamble
Right.
or maybe more mature sites, and you log in and you do that. That place might be totally protected against cyber attacks. The problem is they share your data with clearinghouses to be able to, they make money off you.
Right.
Well, those clearinghouses have been being hacked lately. So now some of this stuff is being ransomware. Hey, we know that you have a gambling problem. We're going to tell your wife, or we know that you like to go to this mature, the Ashley Madison thing, right?
Yeah.
This mature website. And if we don't, we're going to tell your employer that you did this if you don't give us $10,000. And that's happening a lot. So be careful with what you do. Be careful, but don't fall for that stuff. I mean, if I were going to scam you and tell you I was going to do that, and you give me $10,000, I still do it anyway.
Right.
And most
I
scammers.
was like, what's to stop him from just doing it
Yeah,
anyways?
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
It makes a lot of sense. Any final statement for you before we end the show?
Like I said, this is new to me being on here, but like I said, coming in and, Matt and, the office staff can guide you through all the different steps, especially, Medicare age is a biggie, deciding, well, is a supplement good for me? And is an Advantage plan good for me? Can I afford this compared to this? Because that comes into play too.
Right.
And just like I said, the hometown come in, we're there to answer questions, and it's a great experience. I just love seeing the way Matt can help people with all the different steps of, insurance, retirement, all of it and stuff, life insurance, everything you just said too, investments, going through that. That's another whole thing, trying to figure out how to navigate that when you turn
yeah.
a certain age, Well, I just thought I put this money in and I just magically get it, and like, no, it doesn't happen like that and stuff.
Well, luckily, we don't have to worry about any of that because we do have the team over there at Heiar Insurance to take care of all that for us. Reminding everybody, if you want to stop by and check out the Heiar team, they got their hours over there at the Heritage Mall. You can check them out from 9 till noon and 1 to 5. They take that nice little lunch hour break in there. Let them have that. They need that.
Yes.
And that's over there again at the Heritage Mall Monday through Friday. You can also give them a call, 920-887-0580. Or as always, you can tune in on Fridays for the Senior Solutions Show. And generally we have Matt Heiar on, sometimes Sandy, sometimes guests like Craig and Carrie with us here to talk about everything they've got going on over there at Heiar Insurance. But until next time, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show with me today. Been really appreciative of that. And we do want to say, when you want to retire, you got to call Heiar. This has been a paid program. The advice and opinions expressed on the program are solely that of Heiar Insurance, not necessarily WBEV or Good Karma Brands.